A high-stakes deadline expires just under 12 hours from now. The U.S. president threatening, quote, complete demolition of infrastructure, in effect taking out all of Iran in just one night, if no deal is reached. Warnings that every bridge could be destroyed and power plants left burning and exploding if Iran does not reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Donald Trump dismissing concerns that targeting non-military facilities could amount to committing of war crimes. But defiance from Iran's military issuing its own threats of a response beyond the region if Washington should cross Tehran's own red lines. The IRGC also warning neighboring countries that restraint is over and Iran could launch strikes on infrastructure that could disrupt regional oil and gas supplies for years. Both Washington and Tehran rejecting proposals backed by Pakistan and mediators to end the war. But diplomatic efforts are still underway. Iran's ambassador to Pakistan says mediation efforts are at a, quote, critical, sensitive stage. Explosions reported in capital Tehran as Israel says it completed a wide wave of attacks across the country. Israel issuing an online warning for civilians in the city, urging avoidance of trains and railway lines. Kate Fisher is covering this story for CNN, and she joins us live from Washington, D.C. Kate, the U.S. president has laid out several deadlines. He has also pushed those deadlines back. Any indication of what we can expect in just 12 hours from now?
Yeah, well, the last we heard from him, he did sound resolute about this 8 p.m. Here, evening time here in Washington, D.C., that was his final deadline, he said, for the Iranians to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And he said if they didn't, he would essentially push the country back to the Stone Ages. He talked about burning all their power plants, completely demolishing them. They would be out of business forever, as well as their bridges, so hitting this civilian infrastructure. And he seemed resolute in that. But as we know, and you just mentioned, he has backed down against these threats many times before. So it is hard to know just how resolute he is. He said that the military had a full plan and that it would be completed, this demolition essentially, within 4 hours. We do know that explosions have been heard just in the last hour or so on Karg Island in Iran. That is crucial to their oil industry. 90% of their crude shipments go from there. And that is an escalation if the US is moving on to Karg Island. There has been suggestions that the president is weighing whether to send ground troops in there. So perhaps this is an indication that he really is looking to take things further and escalate things. We were also expecting to hear from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth around now, in fact, but the Pentagon has cancelled that press conference. So journalists can't ask questions about just how far these next stages are in the planning.
Okay, should there be an 11th hour deal not to strike, or to reopen the Strait of Hormuz as an example, what would the sticking points be that would have to be overcome in order to reach this deal?
Well, we understand from negotiations that have already taken place, mediated by Pakistan, Egypt, Turkey, that the real sticking point for the Iranians is that they want to see a permanent end to hostilities. The peace plan that was put forward by these intermediaries suggested that there would be a 45-day ceasefire in return for a reopening of the Strait of Hormuz. That was not what the Iranians wanted. They want to see a full and permanent end to hostilities. There is a lot of mistrust between the US, Israel and Iran because, of course, this military operation began during negotiations that were happening. And so the Iranians are saying they need more than just a temporary ceasefire to go ahead. But clearly, the US is so frustrated by the fact that the Strait of Hormuz is not open. That is their big sticking point, as Donald Trump made very clear by that profane message on social media on Easter Sunday. So I think there is still major differences between the two sides, but we are told that negotiations continue. And Donald Trump did even say yesterday he doesn't want to bomb these power plants and these bridges, but he feels that he will have to if that strait is not reopened.
Oh, thanks. Kate Fisher there covering this story for CNA from Washington, D.C.